Well, hello and welcome to the Northwood University webinar series. I am Christopher Deming. Thank you for bearing with us. We had a few challenges getting started today, but we have sorted them all out. You'll be happy to know it'll be well worth the wait. We caught a lot of important people here in between many major events, so we're happy that we have them along. Today we have the future of automotive retail. Today is going to be a little bit different than our usual webinar series. We have invited two faculty members, Elgie and Jennifer Patten, to lead today's discussion with Ryan LaFontaine, CEO of LaFontaine Automotive Group, and Mike Cavanaugh, who is joining us by phone, VP of Driveway Operations at Lithia Motors. Mike is joining us by phone, so you'll see his silhouette pop up in the corner when he starts talking. Just a couple of housekeeping items today. This webinar is being recorded, so if you have to drop off for any reason, you will receive a recording of this along with a survey after the webinar has completed, so be sure to look for that. If you have any questions, please place them in the Q&A tab on the right-hand side of the screen, and we will try our best to get to as many of your questions as we can, although we are sure there are going to be a lot. So without any further delay, again, thank you for waiting for this to begin. I will pass it along to Elgie and Jennifer. Thank you. Take it away.
Well, thank you so much, Chris. This is indeed an honor. We have more than just guests today. We have two more really adjunct professors, and you'll see throughout this interview the time that they invest in the students in their education is really, really appreciated. So I'm going to throw out the first question, and as Chris said, if you've got questions that you want to ask, please put them in the chat room, and we'll be monitoring that. Gentlemen, we are talking about the future of automotive retail, but for us, it really is, the future is here now, and we're really going for the whys. My first question, and why don't we start with Mike? Mike, you're on the phone, so it might be a little bit different here in the transition, and then we'll go to Ryan. What gets you up in the morning? You know, you're in a very challenging industry, automotive. What gets you up in the morning?
What gets me up in the morning? That's a good question, Elgie. You know, I grew up in the automotive industry, and I love this industry. I think I'm very, very passionate about what we're doing today. You know, we've made it through some challenging times in the industry, and this is, you know, probably the biggest boom we've ever seen right now, even though we've got a bit of some crazy economic factors coming into play. I think just about every dealership right now is, you know, reaping the rewards of some interesting economic factors right now. But I would say, other than my passion for the industry as a whole, you know, what gets me up every day is really trying to change the industry for the better and kind of change the perception that a lot of consumers have of the industry. You know, we haven't always had the best reputation in the retail automotive sector, and I don't think that's a fair representation of what, you know, folks like us at Lithia and Ryan and his company represent. You know, we really do want to better serve people every day, and we talk about serving customers wherever, whenever, however they need our help, and figuring out new and innovative ways to do that is really what gets me up every morning and drives me every day.
That's awesome, Mike. Ryan, same question. What gets you up in the morning?
So when you look at it, right, our industry always changes. So adversity like we're going through right now gives us opportunity. So when you look at that, it's really looking at it from that optic of where is that opportunity, right? We're getting education whether we want to or not. And of course, no one wants to go through what we've gone through in a pandemic and now a chip shortage, but it teaches you who you are as a company. It teaches you how to be resilient, how to grow, what opportunities are there, what efficiencies maybe we're lacking. We all like to look at the successes or the wins, cars we sold, how many stores we bought. But in those, underneath, when you peel back that onion, there's a lot of layers, things that can be improved upon from efficiencies. So I really look at these times that I try to focus our optic, like we always control our view impacts so many, right? If we are focused on the future and really planning, this is giving us a time to really look 5, 10, 15 years out and really say, how do we meet the consumers at that point today rather than waiting pre-planning for it, utilizing those efficiencies and getting better to gain market share. So it's really, from my standpoint, been an exciting time to do that, internalizing that upon ourselves. Again, in a time that you don't want to go through, but really looking at that in wins, and we've been fortunate to obviously find many of them.
That's fantastic. That is awesome. While we're waiting for you to put things in the chat room to our audience, I've got a question that this comes from our students. So coming out into this exciting industry, you two are very successful, large organizations that are making a difference in retail automotive, and as goes retail, goes the industry, right? So we can manufacture until we're blue in the face, but if we don't get that out transactionally to a buying public, we have nothing more than a hobby. So to the students that are going out into this great industry, what would be your words of advice? Mike, we'll start with you again, then go to Ryan. What would be your words of advice to those students that are coming out into this great industry?
That's another good question. I would probably say, don't be afraid to start at the bottom somewhere and gain the experience necessary to work your way up. You may not get that exact ideal job that you're looking for, when you enter an industry or when you enter a new company, but look to get the experience that's going to help position you for what your dream job may be one day. And don't be afraid to experiment and try different opportunities as you develop in your career. I think, well-rounded people that really understand the whole industry are incredibly valuable. So, don't get too siloed in what you do unless that's what you're really passionate about, but really try to understand the whole industry and how we all work together, how the OEMs and dealerships and auctions and vendors and everybody works together to support this industry, because it's not just the OEMs that sell cars, to your point, Elgie, it's the retailers that are out there, and there's a lot of supporting cast members in this industry that help everything function and gain efficiencies as well. So, try to get a well-rounded experience, and, don't be afraid to work hard.
Great answer. Ryan, what words of advice to these students that are coming out into this exciting automotive industry?
So it's similar to Mike. It's the foundational pieces, right? We got to focus on the things we control. So I'd say don't focus on new car sales. That's got to be the frosting on the cake, but you got to bake the cake first. The cake's got to be well-rounded, that we're looking at all the things that we can control. And so many people stop and don't look at the things like service departments or body shops or parts, because they're not as glamorous as the sales, right? But you can't do the sales if you don't have those foundational pieces. Used cars, finance. We really push our company to focus on those controllables, and we really don't talk about new cars. And that doesn't mean I neglect new cars. Clearly, it's uberly important and a focus, but we got to control the things we can control, because we can't control if manufacturers have a chip shortage, if there's lease programs or purchase programs, or there's not, or what's going on. But if we focus on used cars, finance, service, parts, body shop, we can sustain any type of storm. And if anything, if you look at from 2008 to now, there's been many different adversities we faced that if you don't have a strong foundation, you can't build upon. You have to be well-rounded. And a lot of people skip those steps of really spending time in those departments, because it's not that notoriety of like, I sold 20 cars or I did this. It's not as exciting as that, but it's more crucial. Because I don't want to belittle sales. We all should be able to talk to people, right? People should face-to-face, internet, phone. Talking to people is what most people that are going to your school and in this business are good at. But we have to really challenge ourselves to be good at what others aren't. And that's the focus on those controllable departments that will weather the storm. And you look at your net profits of any store, any dealership, any automotive group, it all comes down to that fixed coverage. It all comes down to that fixed department, that used car department feeding it all. Used cars feed service, parts, body shop, finance. We got to understand, much like Mike was saying, that it takes an army of vendors, OEMs, support, manufacturers. But if you don't have a grounded perspective on those departments, yes, your education, and yes, you can overcome it over time, and we all can get understand departments to a point. But nothing is better than real-time experience in those departments, firsthand observing what they go through on a day-to-day basis. So when you do grow your career, you can empathize with what they've experienced firsthand and relate to it and be stronger to make sure you're making the right decisions as you grow.
Awesome, awesome. To our audience out there, you can see why we love having Mike and Ryan in front of the students. Their passion, their excitement, we hope connects with our students, and much like a coach, inspires them to get out there and be their very best version of themselves. My next question is going to relate to technology, and we have a tremendous asset here. Our Director of Technology, Jennifer Patten, is with us online here, and she's going to be joining in a second. But technology, so whether that's tools, whether that's online, whether that's digital, whether that's transformation, whether it's mobility, what does technology, whether the wins, the challenges, what does technology mean to the future of automotive retail right now? I'll start with Mike and move to Ryan. Mike, technology, what is here?
All right, can you hear me?
I can hear you, Mike. Did you?
All right, great.
Were you able to hear me?
I can hear you. I actually just joined on the video now, so hopefully you can hear me on that end.
Okay. And if you didn't hear my question, it was technology. And whether that means the tools, whether it means online, digital, whether it means mobility, the future of automotive retail and the wins or challenges that we face aligned with technology. What does technology mean to the future of automotive retail? Mike?
Great. Well, as much as it may not seem like I know much about technology with my challenges getting online today, technology is a big part of what I focus on every day. So, the industry is changing a lot. We've had a lot of disruptors enter the business, like the Carvanas and Vrooms of the world that have kind of demonized dealerships and the way that we've traditionally done business. And, we've really put a focus on how do we serve all customers, including those customers that want to, quote unquote, buy a car online, right, or not come into a physical store. Just like we, get groceries delivered to our house now, and we get clothes and shoes and everything else delivered to our house. A lot of consumers want to experience, the car buying process, or, the car selling process, or even the car servicing process that way now as well, too. So technology really helps enable that a lot. The people are really what drives things. The technology is a good tool, just like in the service department, right? You've got all your tools that help you repair vehicles. Technology is a tool on the other end of the house to help with, help with sales, help with F&I, help with fulfillment, and help provide a better experience for consumers. So, we've invested very heavily in technology at Lithia and Driveway. We probably have 100 new employees over the last year that really are focused on that product and engineering and developing proprietary tools. It's a huge focus for us right now. So I would say folks that historically wouldn't have had an opportunity in automotive retail for the last, couple decades, now it's a really enticing piece of the industry for people to get into, because we're tackling pretty big challenges. Probably the first largest purchase people ever make in their life is purchasing a vehicle, and we're equipping consumers with tools that help them guide themselves through the sales process, so to speak, or the sales experience, and equip our employees to help collaborate with them through the process. So it doesn't feel as much like someone's being sold as much as they're being kind of guided through the process and helped with their needs throughout that process. So yeah, it's a huge focus every day for us.
Awesome. Ryan, the technology and the whole ecosystem, what is the wins and challenges for your group?
So Mike covered a lot of key factors, right? So I'm not going to repeat those, but those are crucial. But when you look at it from efficiencies, right, you have to look at how we as employees, as auto groups, can utilize technology to speak to each other, so we gain those efficiencies and make sure that we know from a consumer's perspective, whether it be a phone call, internet lead, where are the disconnection points, how we can cater to the consumer better for sales, for used cars, for the BDC, right? They all have to speak together and make sure, especially when we're setting appointments, we're making sure we meet the consumer's expectation. But I think there's a huge opportunity for body shops and for service when it comes to pickup delivery. You brought up Vroom and these Cavanaugh type approaches. The disadvantage they have is they don't, after they sell the vehicle, what happens, right? And that's a huge advantage for dealer groups to sit here and go and use their scope and size and diversification of brands and or locations and geography as an advantage to make sure that we're taking care of the customer from the sale to the service or whatever it may be till the next one. And we all know retention comes through service and parts and body shops. So that's a huge advantage as dealers that we use technology to look at. But we also consider and measure things from efficiencies of phone calls, right? Traditionally, people just don't deal with those well. And a lot of phone calls do not get return phone calls. They get the voicemail. There's new technology that'll identify that, right? That can sit here and find out whether a consumer's been called back. So we can monitor and be more thorough to make sure there's no disconnects, because technology costs a lot of money, right? We have so many tools. Just like Mike, we add tools daily. I have an entire marketing. We kicked out ad agencies and created a whole digital team like what he's talking about. That's all they focus on is what technologies are coming and how do we get ahead of it in comparison to our competitors. And that space changes so rapidly. But when it comes to their margins decreasing, we got to make sure we're really utilizing technology instead of duplication. Get rid of duplication, find efficiencies, find ways from the DMS, your system, obviously through your CRM, everything speaking together, so there's no disconnection points all the way down to the website and or to your app or the customer's perspective of scheduling and picking up that door-to-door delivery, just like we talked about when it comes to what everyone's expectation is with food. It's just where the industry's going. And even from the EV side, you look at technology, even in the service, right? It's going that way everywhere we go. So we've been embracing it. And we've been finding great ways, from even sending out videos when you're doing a technician's doing a walkthrough of the vehicle and reposting it out to the customer through a text so they can see what we're trying to show. So it obviously allows more credibility coming in through technology by showcasing what's wrong with their vehicles. And then it also allows for more platforms, like you said, of really the consumer, us being door to door for all aspects. It's not just the sales side, but the full totality of dealerships. So it's going to create efficiencies and workloads and ability for us to have a higher closing percentage, higher internet closing percentages, phone ups, every aspect of it to measure and just have those all speak together.
That's awesome. That's awesome. Our own director of technology here at the university in the automotive department is on with us today, Jennifer Patten. Jen, you think we should have these two back in class?
Yes.
I love it.
Yes.
I love it.
Yes, and Ryan, I love what you say about there's always opportunity in adversity, and I think it's one of the greatest times to be a part of our industry because there are so many changes happening, and a lot of the questions that are coming in online right now are actually focused on the electrification and how that's going to change the way that you communicate with your customer, the way that you support your fixed operations. With digital retailing, how are you going to support the F&I? So there's a lot of people out there concerned about the profit centers, and how do you take that adversity of the change and really still provide opportunity within it? So Ryan, I'll let you go first, and then Mike, you could also reply, would be great.
So those are great points, and really what we face and talk about daily is how do we really, you think about a pickup and delivery for a sale, right? We can't have a disconnection point from finance. We depend on income. Also, from a compliance standpoint, we have to present every product. So much like service and testing technologies like this with video platforms of being able to speak to the customer right then and there and be able to obviously handle it. But you also got to be set up for changes in that delivery process if they decide to buy products. So we've been working on technology from a speaking standpoint. We've perfected it where really the only document in the state of Michigan, at least, is the actual odometer statement. It has to have a wet signature. Everything else does not. I'm sure the state's going to change that, but we got to make sure that we provide all of those features. You brought up an awesome point in regards to service and EV and where that's going, right? Most people aren't thinking about that. Really, what the plan is, that changes everything from the hoist capacity to the hoist size to what the technician training is going to be. And when you look at that field, it's impossible to find great technicians as it is today. So it's adapting, involving that side of it from our perspective. So we have to plan. Like right now, we're building a brand new Ford store and a Lincoln store, and we're already thinking through, okay, what other platforms have to be there from the EV because everyone's going there. So just like that, it's going to change the type of employees we have over time, right? And evolving them to be more IT based and technology based. but it's also going to look from those standpoints of disconnects when it comes to how do we make sure when we're taking that pickup and delivery directly to the consumer, there's no disconnect points. How do we buy their car? Right? What technology can we do, whether it be a Venmo, whether it be a PayPal, or other platforms that we're investigating right now to make that simple, that we can just point and click and write obviously to their phone, or obviously right to their account. But then there's also a checking and balance, right? You got to make sure you're going to open up a platform like that with your checking account. Is how do the girls in the office have an accounting for that? So there's no chance of malice or just balancing all those accounts. So you really have to have a think tank all day, every day, connecting on the points. And the best part of it is really empowering your people, just like Mike, that's his biggest strength is our people, and getting their collective ideas. Just like the 20 interns we're having this year, right? I love letting them be part of my meetings in the process and all the things we're war rooming, and then get their perspective, because the way they look at it, their optic, although I consider myself really young, they're quite a bit younger, and they have a different viewpoint. And I need to see that. I need to hear it. And we feed off each other, and we create a better end result. And we're empowering a lot of different diversification inside our company to make sure we're getting all perspectives and all voices, really creating the end product.
Thank you. Thank you, Ryan. Mike, what's your take?
I think technology helps us accomplish a few things, and really it helps us with customer experience, it helps us with efficiency, and it helps us with opportunities. Without technology like what we're using right now, we wouldn't be able to have so many employees continue to be productive working from home during the current environment that we've had over the last year. We wouldn't be able to have employees over all parts of the country that we have right now. We've opened up our opportunity to hire people because you don't have to come to the same building every day to be a productive member of the team. You can collaborate in a lot of different ways. From an efficiency standpoint, these digital retailing tools, these tools that Ryan mentioned in service, right? They help you create efficiencies. They help you, make more money in service on each RO. They help you, your salespeople be more productive. They can sell more cars per salesperson. As we've started to navigate through some of the challenges that we had earlier last year and kind of continuing through the early parts of this year, we've seen the efficiencies of each of our employees have went up pretty dramatically. So technology has helped enable us to be more efficient as well. And then ultimately, the customer is at the center of everything we do. If we don't make them happy, sometimes you have to make investments that in occasions are expensive, right, in the short term. But in the long run, if they serve the customer better, they're better for your business. And what we're seeing right now with Driveway, for instance, is we're serving customers in markets that we were never selling cars into before other than a one-off. But we're shipping cars across the country to markets where we don't have any dealerships right now. So it really helps increase your reach. Those challenges have kind of pushed us in a direction and expedited some things, but really help provide a better customer experience, more efficiency, and more opportunities for people to contribute to the team all over the country.
That's great. Thank you. So another thing I've noticed in our industry that's changing as a result of technologies is there's becoming more and more dealership groups like the two of you. And that also opens up opportunity for different types of positions that were not necessarily in the car business 20 years ago. So can you talk about how you now have maybe different skill sets that you're employing, maybe different positions that you now have underneath the multiple businesses, not only within a dealership, but then the multiple stores that you have within the dealership group. So what does the talent acquisition look like for you, and what are you looking for to manage the future technology? So Mike, can you pick that one up, and then we'll pass it back to Ryan, please?
Yeah, sure. We're growing incredibly fast. I also often liken the analogy to kind of holding onto a rocket ship. And when you grow that fast, you need a lot of really highly productive team members to help support that. And I think we've got 155 positions open in Michigan alone right now. We've got just shy of 1,400 positions open across the country right now. And most of these are new positions, right? They're positions in product and engineering. We've got a captive finance company. They're positions at our captive finance company. There are positions in Driveway. I'm going to hire probably close to 200 people before December of this year on that team alone that are in that mix that I've already given you of open positions. So there's, project management, I think, is a big one. We're seeing a lot of project managers and product managers to help us navigate through some of these big transitions. The more stores you have, the bigger deal it is to implement any kind of technology or any kind of process change. when we think about, everything that goes into the digital retailing or the online retailing world, your photo process and your merchandising is more important than ever. It's not the days of, the auto trader folks coming to the dealership to snap that one picture and put it in the magazine like, Ryan, when you and I were probably kids, right? A lot younger men than we are today, even though I agree with you. I still feel like I'm young, but I'm reminded how old I am sometimes as well, too. It's different. It's, it has to be this robust experience with all of this data that customers want to have at their fingertips. So people that are experts at vehicle content data and merchandising vehicles, there's endless opportunities. I truly believe this is one of the most exciting industries to be in for anyone right now, in so many different fields. So I hopefully that answers your question, but I could probably talk about that for 20 more minutes.
Yes, thank you, Mike. Ryan, what's your take?
Yeah, just like Mike, there's so many aspects of where it's changing and evolving, right? He hit on a lot of key categories, but it's looking for those. It's not outsourcing. What we need to do is personalize that experience. So a lot of it is creating our own. Like in our case, creating our own ad agency, our own marketing division, our own training department. That's an important piece, is looking at a backbone that will hold accountability for consistency, because us being a family-run business, we want to keep that family feel with some corporate discipline, right? That's important. We have to have those efficiencies, but I never want to lose a culture that we built and fought for each and every day. So it's training on that. What is where we're going, what the future is, what's the vision, but also what was the past and how did we get here? But then it's also just like him, looking at the digital retailing space, the pickup and delivery space for all aspects of the business, and building teams around that. A key category that is really relevant today is used car acquisition, right? An entire buying division that's all online based, right? It doesn't matter where you're located. You can do that from your house if you're good in that space. We train you and coach you to go out to places like Facebook Marketplace and other opportunity spaces for us to acquire vehicles. Used car pricing is at an all-time record, right? So acquisition, we can't, as good as we think we are, we can't do anything about it. We've got to make sure we're focused on that from both sides. Clearly, we've learned real fast with the chip shortage how important new car inventory is well. And it's balancing that efficiencies of days turned without. But it's looking at those, looking at full HR departments, look at hiring teams. Like I get myself involved in 70% of all customer-facing positions, 100% of all managers in this company. I sit down and interview, which is a big time commitment. But I want to make sure, again, we never lose our way. But for us, as we've grown to now, we're acquiring 2-3 more stores right now. We can't do that. I can't be that person each and every day. So it's creating a team that's out there looking for talent, because talent is hard to come by, and it doesn't have to be talent that already has experience in automotive, and quite the opposite. It's just people that have those intangibles, the people that have, for us, the work ethic, the passion, the heart, the integrity, and that grit to win. But you need someone that can pour passion like I am into them, because an interview goes both ways. And sometimes your typical recruiting firm doesn't have that personalization. Got to have someone that knows our company. So it's developing teams around that to really invest in the future. But it's also looking at the things other dealers don't want to do, like us. Commercial truck has become huge. Fleets become huge. Door to door, our own family deal direct type approach. But it's really even accountability, like going back to even to technology. Technology is awesome. There's so much of it. If it's only as good if you use it, because at some point it's overwhelming. You can have a report for a report for a report. So it's a new, different position of accountability. How do we drive with us, almost 1,800 employees, to be on the same vision of accountability and what we need? And a lot of that goes down to just that, is making sure we have people that are deployed. We created an entire deployment team that really is going out in the stores and holding that accountability, so we have the same look, feel, vision of accountability where we grow. So much like Mike, I mean, we've been on a hiring blitz left and right during COVID. I think we brought on over 200 employees. We probably have a need for right around 175 to 200 currently more today. And that's probably going light with the growth opportunities. So it's going to be huge, but it's also important to know it doesn't have to be the traditional approach. Everyone looks at dealership that, I got to work 9 to 9, I got to work 9 to 6, I got to work all these crazy hours. No, a lot of these positions are typical 9 to 5 type jobs. You can do fully and from our buildings and really deployed. So it's evolving our whole thinking of how we're going to manage that and really hold accountability, but grow with that opportunity without the big costs of buildings and space. And where am I going to put this person?
Awesome. That's awesome. So we're going to go through the lightning round now until we get cut off. I know we got some hard stops. So the first question is going to go to Mike, and this is from my good friend Nikki. She says, as supply chain issues continue to affect new car inventory and used car inventories are demanding top dollar, what areas are you focused on to drive profits? Do you gravitate to service, body shop, aftermarket? What gets most of your attention? Mike?
There's always a strong focus on fixed, right? But I would say, to Ryan's point earlier, used car acquisition is a huge deal. I mean, we're out growing that team rapidly. I think I've got 10 new buyers started in the last 30 days to continue to buy cars across the country. We're investing to like internal auction platforms to help not wholesale any cars outside of the organization, not get rid of any aged retail cars outside of the organization, because we've got nearly 250 locations that if a car doesn't work well in Michigan, it might work really well in Florida. It might work really well in Texas and vice versa. So really the inventory acquisition side more than anything. And believe it or not, we're even trying to buy new cars right now because new car supply is low. So any way we possibly can to get that inventory is huge, because when you buy used cars, right, used cars help really supply. It's your biggest customer in fixed, right, is yourself. So if you're buying used cars, you're reconditioning them, you're running them through the shop, they're going to get ready. But I mean, acquisition right now is a massive focus for us right now. How do we get more vehicles?
That's awesome. That's awesome. Ryan, from our Rockstar student Grady, as a pioneer of the retail family-oriented experience, how has the massive expansion of your locations affected your branding? Helped or hurt? And how big can the family grow?
So I feel very blessed to have so many great people that we've poured into that have been with us for years, that understand our culture, our DNA. I think that's part of that maturing process. We know who we are. We know what works for us, right? And it might be different than other automotive groups, but we know it's those 5 attributes I talked about. So the better talent we have of people that are going side by side with me each and every day, grinding and growing, the easier it will be to obviously add and continually add stores. So people make that investment, right? You can always find money. I'm not belittling money. You can always borrow money. You can always do this to expand. But if you don't have the human capital to really carry on that culture, it would never work. So to his point, as long as we continually invest, that's why it's so important, and we keep on expanding our training department, including not just sales. A lot of things. We have a full fixed ops training process as well, and a whole onboarding process for anyone from a porter all the way up to a general manager. So as long as we continue to invest in them and grow future leaders, right, people that have learned our culture, that have grown, that's when we'll grow. So we're really investing in the on-deck circle. In many cases, it's an extra expense because sometimes we don't need that many managers at a store. But for me, it's not an expense. It's just an investment in the future. As long as we continue looking at it that way, that it's truly investment in the future of our growth, we'll be able to grow because we'll have the human capital that knows our culture, that understands what we're doing, that understands our vision, that knows us, go in there and really pour into that culture of the store. That's why we acquired 2 stores in last November, and we're buying 3 stores as we speak because we have the talent on the bench ready to go. So that's the vision. So it does, gets more important in regards to having consistency of accountability of certain platforms, or what I call my non-negotiables, because the bigger we are, I can't be at every store. So I have to really depend on them to understand here's what our DNA is, here's what we have to do, but then also give them the freedom to have their own personality inside the store so they can grow, because every market, even though the brand might be consistent with 5 Chrysler stores or whatever it may be, every market, even though it's the same brand, is different. So we got to make sure we're involved in the community, pouring in the community, really relating there, and having people that want to be involved in that community as well and grow it. So we have to empower those people, but teach, coach, and mentor and grow them from the top down.
Awesome. That's awesome.
Thank you so much, Elgie and Jennifer. Especially special thank you to Ryan and Mike. I hate to cut us off because I know we could probably go for another several hours, but unfortunately we don't have the time. And with respect to Mike and Ryan's time, thank you so much for joining us. I know you met us in between some important stuff, so thank you for taking the time. To our attendees, thank you for sticking with us. I know we're a little bit over our normal 12:30 end, but it's all really great content. Thank you so much for those who dropped the questions in the Q&A. Those are really helpful for us in driving this discussion and making sure this is productive for all of our attendees. So from all of us at Northwood University, especially the IT folks in the back that helped us get this sorted out, thank you so much for your time today, and we hope to catch you next month for the Northwood University webinar series. Thank you guys so much.
Thank you.
Thanks for having us on. Have a great day, everyone.
Thank you.
Thank you.